Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Story Time. We're still talking about David, and we're going to continue. Remember, last week we started seeing the chaos that was starting to come into the kingdom because of David's sin with Bathsheba. But today we're going to go to 2 Samuel chapter 14. I got a question for you. You're starting to see the ramifications of some of the things that God said were going to come about because of David's actions. Do you think if David would have realized the ramification for his actions, do you think that he would have sinned with Bathsheba? What do you think? Now, we found out last week that Absalom killed Amnon, his brother, and then he ran away. So today we're going to continue and see what happens. We're in 2 Samuel chapter 14. Now Joab, the son of Zeruiah, knew that the king's heart longed for Absalom. So Joab sent word to Tekoa and had a wise woman brought from there and told her this: "Please pretend to be a mourner. Put on mourning clothes, do not anoint yourself with oil, but act like a woman who has for many days been in mourning for the dead. Then what I want you to do is I want you to go and I want you to speak to him in this way," referring to the king. So Joab told her what to say. Now when the woman of Tekoa spoke to the king, which would be King David, she bowed her face to the ground and lay herself down and said, "Help, O king." The king asked her, "What's the matter?" She said, "Truly, I am a widow. My husband is dead. Your maidservant had 2 sons, but the 2 of them struggled and fought in the field. There was no one to separate them, so one struck the other and killed him. Now behold, the entire family has risen against your maidservant, and they say, 'Hand over the one who killed his brother, so that we may put him to death to pay for the life of his brother, whom he killed, to destroy the heir also. By doing this, they'll extinguish my coal that is left, leaving my husband without a name or a remnant heir on the face of the earth.' So then David said to the woman, 'Go to your home, and I will give orders concerning you.' So the woman from Tekoa said to the king, 'My lord, O king, the guilt is on me and on my father's house, but the king and his throne are guiltless.' So then King David said, 'If anyone speaks to you about this matter, bring him to me for judgment, and he will not touch you again.' Then she said, 'Please let the king remember the Lord your God, so that the avenger of blood will not continue to destroy. Otherwise, they will destroy my son.' And David said, 'As the Lord lives, not a single hair from the head of your son shall fall to the ground.' Then the woman said, 'Please let your maidservant speak one more word to my lord the king.' She said, and then he said, 'Speak.' The woman said, 'Now, why have you planned such a thing against God's people? For in speaking this word, the king is like a guilty man, in that the king does not bring back his banished son. For we will certainly die, and are like water that is spilled on the ground and cannot be gathered up again. Yet God does not simply take away life, but despises plans, so that the one who is banished is not driven away from him. Now I came to speak of this matter to my lord the king, because the people have made me afraid.' So the maidservant thought, 'I'll just speak to the king. Perhaps the king will do what his maidservant requests. For the king will hear and save his maidservant from the hand of the man who would destroy me and my son together with the inheritance of God.' Then your maidservant said, 'Please let the word of my lord the king be comforting, for my lord the king is as an angel of God to discern good and evil. May the Lord your God be with you." Then the king answered and said to the woman, "Do not hide from me anything that I ask you." And the woman said, "Let my lord the king please speak." And the king said, this is King David, "Is the hand of Joab with you in all of this?" In other words, is he plotting with you? And the woman answered, "As your soul lives, my lord the king, no one can turn to the right or to the left from anything that my lord the king has said. Indeed, it was your servant Joab, who commanded me. He put all these words in the mouth of your maidservant in order to change the appearance of things between Absalom and you, being his father. Your servant Joab did this thing. But my Lord has wisdom, like the wisdom of an angel of God, to know everything that is in the earth." Then the king said to Joab, "Listen, I will most certainly do this thing. Now go, bring back the young man Absalom." Joab bowed his face toward the ground, lay himself down, and blessed the king. Then Joab said, "Today your servant knows that I have found favor in your sight, my lord, O king, in that the king has done the request of his servant." So Joab got up, went to Geshur, brought Absalom to Jerusalem. However, the king said, "Let him go to his own house and do not let him see my face." So Absalom went to his own house and did not see the king's face. Now in all Israel there was no man as handsome as Absalom. Man, that says a lot. So highly praised for that. From the sole of his foot to the crown of his head, there was no blemish in him. When he cut the hair of his head, for at the end of each year he cut it because the weight was so heavy on him, the weight of his hair was at 200 shekels by the king's weight. To Absalom were born 3 sons and 1 daughter whose name was Tamar. She was a beautiful woman. Absalom lived 2 full years in Jerusalem without seeing the king's face, his father. So Absalom sent to Joab to send him to the king, but he would not come to him. Even when he sent again the second time, he still wouldn't come. Therefore Absalom said to his servants, "See, Joab's property is near mine, and he has a barley field there. Go and set it on fire." So Absalom's servants set the field on fire. Then Joab took action and went to Absalom at his house and said to him, "Why did your servant set my field on fire?" Absalom answered Joab, I keep calling him Job, I'm sorry about that. "I sent for you, saying, 'Come here, so that I may send you to the king to ask, why have I come back from Geshur? I would be better for me to still be there. Now then, let me see the king's face, and if there is guilt in me, let him put me to death." So Joab came to the king and told him. Then David called for Absalom, and he came to the king, bowed his face to the ground before the king, and the king kissed Absalom. Okay, my camera's dropping. Here's my question. Joab got someone to come and pretend to be someone that they weren't. Absalom, then in turn, the same person, he burnt his field up because he didn't do what he wanted him to do. To me, it seems like there's a whole lot of deception going on, a whole lot of deceit, and a whole lot of manipulation. What do you think? You know, these are all things that God told David were going to come about, that there wouldn't be peace in his house anymore. And so he's reaping the consequences of the actions. But we also see that Absalom was a very handsome man. Have you ever known someone that was either beautiful, being a girl, or handsome, being a boy, that used their looks to manipulate, try to get their way? I have. And you know, you can sit back and you can watch them. Is it good to give them their way? I want you to think about these things, because sometimes when people come in a form of manipulation, we have a tendency to accept what is happening, So, what do you think should take place? David did what he did, and it's done. But in the future, in the next chapter, we're going to see what Absalom's actions are once he's permitted to leave his house. So I want you to think about this week and just realize that God loves us so much, and all of this turmoil was brought about by sin. Our sin has ramifications whether we realize it or not. We don't get away with it. God sees everything. He sees the secrets of our heart. So go with God this week. Think about it. Look at your life. See if there's ways that you're manipulating, because manipulation is never of God. So just know God loves you, and go with God this week. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.